Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Virtual Encounters. I'm Abhishek Mahajan and we have a very interesting and very special guest today. Up on our screens is Mr. Harsha Bhogle, the voice of Indian cricket who doesn't need any introduction. Welcome sir, welcome to DD India. First of all, how have you been and how are you dealing with these COVID times?
Thank you very much. Different ways. I've been in a lot of bubbles recently, so spending a lot of time with myself, and I'm not my favorite company, so that's a little bit of a struggle. But I think the fact that we are getting cricket, that we're getting to cover cricket, that we're getting to watch cricket is a blessing in these times. So I've always believed that you must be grateful for what you have. I think you must be grateful for what we can in these unprecedented times. So coping, yeah.
I want to go a little bit back, how it all started. We all want to know from your BTech degree to MBA and then joining an advertising company. You always wanted to be a commentator, a broadcaster, or it just happened?
No, it wasn't possible. Okay. I was doing it like everybody else as a hobby. It wasn't possible. I was very lucky. I got a break very early through doing commentary at All India Radio when I was just 19. Yeah. We had a very good producer in those days on Doordarshan as well, called PV Satish. He used to be a documentary filmmaker, but was also given additional charge of cricket. There was not a lot of cricket on Doordarshan in those days. So he was given additional charge of cricket. And one day he said, come, do the sports roundup for me. And on Saturday, there used to be a little bit. So I'd never faced the camera before. I used to literally learn by heart all my lines, and I would go there and I would throw my lines, and then they would play the pictures in. So whether it was boxing or it was basketball or whatever, I'd go and do those things. I don't think we had the concept of makeup. I don't think we had the concept of scripts. I remember one particular tournament that I had to, after the game was over, I had to go to the Doordarshan studios in Somajiguda in Hyderabad and wait for them to finish the edit before we could put together the program. And I mean, it wasn't even the era of U-matic tapes, by the way. I don't even know if any of you, maybe some people in the studio watching, know of what a U-matic tape is. But they used to actually splice, they used to edit, they used to cut the film, splice the film. They used to do it on a Nagra. I don't know if some of you have seen a Nagra. They used to do it on that and then put it out. And because the cameras weren't so great, I remember going back to the game the next day and my friends in Hyderabad saying, "Ulti durbin se dikhai kya match." So, but that's okay. It's about evolution. I mean, when computers started, who knew how big storage capacities would be? We hadn't heard of gigabytes, let alone terabytes. Yeah. So these things evolve. But yeah, it was fun watching television as a medium evolve, as it's been fun watching digital as a medium evolve.
You must be getting nostalgic talking about all this. And mind you, I've heard about those tapes from my senior colleagues here in Doordarshan. Very interesting stories that they tell us. But again, you mentioned commentating at the age of 19, just 19, to Harsha Ki Khoj, out of the box, travel India to Harsha Online, and to being the voice of cricket. How has been the journey?
Blessed. I don't know why it was me. It could have been anybody else. I don't know where, roulette ka wo ball jaake kisi ek pe gir jata hai na. Yeah, when you turn the wheel, that arrow comes and stops on somebody. I don't know why it stopped on me, but I got chances that at times I was not ready for. I was very lucky to have had a lot of people who were willing to say, "Chalo bacha hai, let's give him a chance early on." And I've always believed you must get a chance. What you do with the chance is up to you. So once you get the chance, it's up to you to say, right, I've got my chance now. What is the most I can make of it? So I was very lucky to get the chances that I did. And thereafter, your work spoke for you.
Are you proud of what you have achieved so far?
It's a tough one because there's always someone who's better than you around the corner. And I've always feared that if you start to think, you know what, I've done very well. And it's at points, I know you must pat yourself on the back, but I'm so scared of saying you've done very well that I might get complacent.
Right. You're talking like Mr. Amitabh Bachchan that learning should go on. It should never stop.
वो दो नाम जो है ना एक वाक्य में नहीं आ सकते. Those two can't come in one sentence.
Yeah. But what is the secret of your fitness? You are a true example of age is just a number.
I wish I could tell you because I wish I could tell you because my body tells me completely different stories. I would love to be a lot fitter. I try and take care of what I eat, but I'm losing the battle of the middle. luckily now you're only seeing me so much. One of the good things about digital is you can only see that much. So yeah,
do you work out also?
I promise to, but there's many a slip between the cup and the lip.
But again,
I walk a lot. I walk a lot. Yeah.
okay. But how has the commentary changed in the last 20, 30 years? No one can put it better than you.
I would say it's changed more in the last 10 or 11 years, even more than it had before. Because with the arrival of T20, there's a certain pace that commentary must adhere to. Because it's like soundtrack chalte rehta hai, and there's a singer, you've got to match the beats, all the instruments have to be in unison to be able to produce the right song. So the game is going at a particular speed, then your commentary cannot just sit back. Your commentary is, you cannot speak at the speed of the game, but you've got to keep that excitement going. It's a 120 ball game, it's like this peppy song that's going. So you've got to stay up with the beat. And also because the game goes so quickly, you don't have time to tell stories. You don't have time to explain things. Right. So you require a great brevity of language. Very economical with words. You've got to be able to tell the same thing in 6 words, 8 words, 10 words sometimes, maybe in 1 word sometimes. So the ability to say the same thing in fewer words has what has differentiated some T20 broadcasters from others. ODI suddenly seems like it's taking forever. Test cricket has its own fun. So you've got to be able to adapt. It's like the modern, or like the traditional, more than the modern, the traditional Hindi playback singer. So Mohammad Rafi had to sing the ghazal, Mohammad Rafi had to sing the qawwali, Mohammad Rafi had to sing the romantic number, and Mohammad Rafi had to sing for Shami Kapoor, he had to sing the sad song. We have to do that. We have to be able to adapt our style to the situation of the match, which you didn't have to do before. In the early days, there was a very British way of doing things, which was very understated, very minimal. Thoda ek bol liya yahan wahan kahin, and the pictures telling the story. But now it's changed, and maybe it'll change again. It's like fashion; it comes and goes.
Right, but you want to relive the memories in the sense that you want to jog your memory a bit. Maybe in the sense that best match you have commentated in, according to you. And also a match, the match which you cannot forget.
Abhishek, itne sare ho gaye. I mean, it's been a long time. It's difficult to pick 1 or 2 games. I get up every morning thinking, wow, today is going to be the best day that I'm going to broadcast on. So there've been some great matches that you broadcast. I mean, the matches that you remember are the matches where India won when you didn't expect them to win. Okay. The matches,
for example,
yeah, but so many, especially away. Because when I grew up, India didn't win away. All my early years in broadcasting, India never won away. So to be in Australia in 2018 was fantastic. To be in England winning when India won a test match in 2002, won a series in 2007-8. Those were great memories. To be in Australia in 2011-12, or 2007-8 rather, when all that was happening, winning that Perth test match there. So those are memories that you remember. Being at the Wanderers in 2007 when India won the T20 World Cup. Yeah. Those were special. Seeing the growth of the IPL, very, very satisfying to see the growth of the IPL. So, and generally discovering how the game is now broadcast differently, the extraordinary professionalism that has come into broadcasting across different networks across the world, that's been just as much fun to watch.
Right, but this is for our viewers. I mean, tell us what it takes to be a live commentator. Your every word is heard, like you mentioned. In social media world, you get trolled also very quickly, very easily. And you have to be very, very spontaneous, chosen about your words, what you are saying live behind the mic. I mean, what it takes to be a live commentator, advice for the youngsters.
Okay. First of all, I'm very careful about telling people what to do because I'm aware that generations are changing. And broadcast is changing. There's more and more digital broadcast coming in. And also people like me don't get a break anymore because there is the peculiar fascination with records translating into commentary boxes. So if I was 20 today, I would not get a game to broadcast on. So a lot of people ask me, why don't you start a little academy? Why don't you train young people to become broadcasters? And I say, and then what? Networks are not picking people. opportunity to people who have not played international cricket. So I'm very scared to tell people this is what you can do and here's a path that's open, because I'm not sure that path exists. But what I will tell you about broadcasting as a format, number one, you must love the game intensely.
Yeah.
Two, you must love the language.
Yeah.
Three, don't take yourself too seriously, because this game is bigger than we are. The moment we think, I know it all, the game tells you something that you do not know. So in my case, because I've not been a player at the highest level, I tend not to analyze as much as to react. And
you are being modest. You are being modest. You are
no. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. When we sit with people, they suddenly notice something. Like just the other day, I was having a chat with Parthiv Patel, and he said something about a certain kind of captain. I said, "Hey, ये तो मुझे मालूम होना चाहिए था," but I didn't. So so I see my role very clearly as keeping up with the pace, as reacting to situations and bringing the story back home to people who are watching. But you cannot take yourself too seriously. If you start to take yourself too seriously and you think, मैं 25 साल से commentator हूँ, मेरी आवाज सुनो, something.
That baggage.
Yeah, you can't take yourself seriously, because there's always someone better than you. All you're doing is you're taking a game and bringing it to people's houses. You're the medium. Aaj aap ho, tomorrow there's another medium, day after tomorrow there's another medium. So we are only a medium, transmitting the game from the players to the audiences. So you can't take yourself too seriously. The arrival of social media has changed it too much, because with social media, वो कवच कहते हैं ना, कवच लगाना पड़ता है, to wear an armor. Because all along there were people who did not have access to you. Yeah. Now they have access to you through social media, but only if you read your social media mentions. So one way is don't read it. But the reason I read every single one of my Twitter mentions, and some days it becomes impossible, but the reason I read every one of my social media mentions is I sometimes might have missed something that someone will point out to me. But more and more, there are people who are sitting at home and want to throw things at you, want to feel very proud. Ke, yaar, maine na usko aise keh diya. You can't react to those kind of people. So after
a while, have you started to be, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you short, but have you started to be extra careful after the advent of social media, in the sense of what you speak, what you write? I know you are a seasoned commentator, but again, people who have just joined in and you speak to former cricketers also on the panel. Do they get extra careful?
Are you talking of extra careful on social media handles or on the broadcast?
Broadcast, because of social media, because you get
no, not really. No.
But Harsha, who according to you is has been the best commentator according to you? One name that comes to our mind is Tony Greig, and who can forget that Sharjah match, dust storm 1998, Sachin Tendulkar going bonkers.
I'll tell you what Tony was good at was in creating the excitement and telling the story around the game. So Tony was very good at doing that. There have been some wonderful broadcasters over the years. There've been a lot, and they're getting better across the world. I think the broadcasters are getting better. I think they're getting more aware of what audiences require, and the best broadcasters don't take themselves too seriously.
Raja, with which commentator you've had the greatest camaraderie?
If there was only one, then I was a failure. So. As a lead broadcaster, I tend to adapt my style to the people I am working with.
But have you worked on a Hindi also? Because your Hindi is amazing.
No, my Hindi is all right. I'll tell you what happens in a broadcast. Because you're speaking at the pace of the broadcast, you cannot wait for a word to come to you.
Yeah.
The word has to be standing there waiting for you to use it. So if you say, कि मैं अगर ये बोलूं तो ये लफ्ज आएगा कि नहीं आएगा, अगर आप उतना सोचोगे ना, आप गेम के पीछे पड़ जाओगे. लेकिन जब आप वहां पहुंचते हो, वो लफ्ज आपका इंतजार करते होना चाहिए वहां पे. That doesn't happen to me in Hindi every time. So in Hindi, I hold myself back a little bit because I'm not very fond of English. Because I've always believed that, as I said right at the start, a broadcaster must love the game, but a broadcaster must love the language. Why do you enjoy listening to Gulzar Saab speak?
Yeah.
Because वो एक नज़ाकत होती है, एक अदा होती है बोलने में. So I'm not a big fan of doing Hindi broadcasting which says ऑफ स्टंप के बाहर थी, साइकोलॉजिकल ब्लो उनके ऊपर था, अपर एज को लेकर चली गई, नाउ ही इज वरीड. There's 75% English in a Hindi broadcast. I mean, I'm not against that. That's the trend. But I just like, so I struggle a little bit, but I'm quite happy. I'm happy doing Hindi.
But going back to social media, Harsha, again, people sometimes troll and pass direct question to former cricketers, criticizing them that how much cricket you have played, that you are criticizing the current cricketer. It has happened, if I give an example, it has happened a lot with Akash Chopra. But what is the best way to deal with that?
एक बात बोलूं सच, the people who troll are essentially sad, angry people. Because if they don't have civility, they don't have a lot in life. So if they are going to abuse you, if you get hassled by them abusing you, then you have lost, not them.
Yeah.
So why should you worry about them? My biggest complaint about the way the modern media is headed is that on social media, because of clickbait, because of the reason to get hits, you look at the most sensational rather than the most rational or the most sensible. And so you start creating a story and then seeing who has said what about it. That person might have 3 followers, that person might be drunk, that person might have had a fight with his family, and he might be angry and he has said something or she has said something. Why do we give so much importance to people who are essentially those kind of people? And then we say so and so was brutally trolled. Bhai, kul mila ke 10 followers hain unke.
But some people do reply. I mean, you have that mindset that we don't need to reply to them, but some people do.
If you reply, you must reply so that you don't allow them to think that they have won. When you reply to someone who abuses you, if you are angry, that person has won. Because person wants you to get angry, so you don't worry about them.
But personally, how do you deal with criticisms? You ignore them?
I used to get affected, but then when very famous people started criticizing me, I realized that life is different. So I don't get affected anymore now.
And any cricketer, maybe former, current, has come to you and said, Harsha Bhai, or I mean, whatever they call you, Harsha, why did you say this about me?
Not as politely.
Or what made you say this about me?
Not as politely too. That happens. That happens.
Yeah. Okay.
That happens. Listen, what we are doing is a broadcast, not a classroom.
Yeah.
So we are not teaching cricket to the people. We are bringing the message of the game to the people. As my friend Alan Wilkins keeps saying, it's a broadcast. It's not a narrow cast. It's a broadcast. That means it's going to a broad spectrum of society, a broad cross section of society. A cricket broadcast is not only about where your foot is going, where your shoulder is, what the science is, what the physics is, what reverse swing is. Yes, you have, that is part of the broadcast, but there are a lot of people there who just want to hear the story of the broadcast. So you all play different roles.
Can I come to you for coaching classes?
नहीं क्यों? खुद अपने आप खुद परखो अपने आप को भाई आ जाएगा.
Just kidding. But now, how do you see the current Indian team in the sense that, and what difference do you see in the current Indian team if we compare it with 1990s, or if we go a little bit back 70s and 80s era?
I think this Indian team is fearless and outstanding, and that is why I actually want them to win even more than they have, because I think they have it in them. And I mean, a lot of them are very strong, ambitious people, and they're all in their own way. There's a Kohli kind of person, there's an Ashwin kind of person, and there's a Rahane kind of person, or there is a Bumrah kind of person. And we've already gone across the entire spectrum of emotions there, from Kohli to Ashwin to Rahane and Bumrah. But displaying emotion is not necessarily a demonstration of your desire. Your desire can be just as strong when you're quiet. I think India has the kind of ability in it, the kind of money that's been put behind it, the kind of exposure that it has to be by some distance the number one team. I think India's reached a stage where India should dominate world cricket. And that's why it worries me a little that we don't. And when people say that, look, he seems to be portraying a negative picture, no, it's just that my aim is a little higher. Okay, we have done really well. I mean, this series win in Australia is a stuff of legend, and I hope we don't forget it for the next 20 years. It was an extraordinary series, and it showed you what you're capable of. Now, India must believe that we go to England in August as favorites. Last time we lost 4-1. That was unacceptable. We should go in as favorites, and I'll be surprised if India don't win there.
But I was talking about how cricket has evolved, how cricket has
Yes.
changed. If you compare it with 70s or 80s, you think cricket is a little easier today in the sense that we in 70s, 80s uncovered pitches, different kind of bats, no restrictions of bouncers.
Yes, but they travel a lot more. They are fitter now. And so the challenges before them are a little different. Yes, batting was a lot more challenging because you didn't have protective gear. But who's to say that this generation would not have evolved like that generation did?
Yeah.
Have you realized since the helmets have come, people are getting hit on the helmet more?
Yeah.
When there were no helmets, people were not getting hit on the helmet because the survival instinct came in and you realized there was a limitation and you played within it. Now players are different. It's not they are lesser players. The techniques have changed because of the helmets, because of the confidence, and they're going towards the ball rather than sitting back and waiting for the ball to come. It's a generation that's looking to score runs, not a generation that's looking to save games. So it's very different, and each generation is a product of its own influences. So Sunil Gavaskar played without a helmet. Chandu Bode tells me with a back foot no ball rule, you were actually bowling off 19 yards because once the front foot landed, keep on dragging the front foot till the back foot came along. And so you're actually bowling off much lesser distances. So they had to play those. They didn't have protective gear. The degree of bravery was very different. But it is like that. No, I mean, our parents' generation lived with one kind of scarcity. We don't have to live with that kind of scarcity. We live with different pressures. So we must enjoy the present. But the game has evolved since you asked me that, most predominantly in terms of athleticism, in terms of fitness. Okay. In terms of skill, yes. I mean, the conditions change, but in terms of athleticism and fitness, yes.
I've got the answer of why cricketers are getting hit more on the helmet. I've got the answer from you. Yep. And again, while coming to the studio, my producer asked me to ask this question from you. Biggest difference that you see in Sachin Tendulkar and Virat Kohli?
Because Tendulkar learned his cricket as a test match player, to some extent Virat Kohli did too, but by the time Virat Kohli came in, the white ball game was firmly entrenched. T20 cricket had started to come. So while Tendulkar had to be a dual format player, Virat Kohli has to be a triple format player. Also, don't forget, Virat Kohli started playing test cricket about 2009-10. So you've seen the first 10 years of Virat Kohli's cricket. If you go back and see the first 10 years of Tendulkar's cricket, Tendulkar started in 1989, watch Tendulkar 1989 to about 2001. Was a very different player from the Tendulkar from 2004 to 2013 when his body started placing restrictions on what he could do. He had to keep adapting and factor in the requirements of his body. Before that, I mean, I keep telling people, yeah, Virat Kohli is a great player. He's fantastic to watch. Watch Tendulkar in the late 90s. That was just completely different. So we are privileged to have seen Tendulkar in the late 90s, turn of the century, 2000s, seeing Virat Kohli today. Remember, Tendulkar also was not quite a product of the social media era. Virat Kohli is a product of that, different pressures, different exposure, more people interested in you as the media changes, so different pressures on him. But purely from a cricketing point of view, it was a pleasure to see them both.
If one name you have to take?
Kyun? Because I'll tell you honestly, I'll tell you why. Because especially in limited overs cricket, every 5 years, you must stop making comparisons. Because the rules change every 5 years. Now, if you're playing with one ball, after 35 overs, it reverses. Now there is no reverse swing in the white ball game. So batting has become a lot easier because there's no reverse swing in the white ball game. 2 new balls means you're always facing a harder ball. That means you're hitting easily. Till recently, you were allowed only 2 fielders outside for the first 15 overs, but thereafter also right till the end you only allowed 4 fielders outside. Now you have 2, 4 and 5 fielders outside. So just the whole pattern of shot making has changed. So every 5-6 years, you must stop making comparisons in the white ball game and compare within those 5-6 years. I mean, a lot of people will tell me Tendulkar faced tougher bowling. I'm not so sure. यार वो eras इतने अलग होते हैं कि ना ही करें. माँ की जलेबी अच्छी थी या आज वो खुद बनाते हो? नहीं, वो गलत comparison हो गया, छोड़ो.
Right. 2-3 questions before we wind up. Please define the role of Rahul Dravid in shaping the youngsters. And the most important role he's playing is at the grassroots level.
The two players that I thought would have a bigger role to play after they retired. That their second innings would be, if anything, even more valuable than their first. One was Rahul Dravid and the other was Saurav Ganguly. I kept telling Saurav Ganguly that your second innings is going to create a greater impact than your first. I still keep telling him that. Every time I meet him, I tell him that. I said, Dada, your second innings. What Rahul has done is, Rahul likes, is a certain kind of person. He's very serious. He's very intense. He doesn't enjoy the limelight as much as some others do. And so for him, looking after the youngsters is just down his street. I'm not sure I'd have enjoyed working with some of the seniors, because with the juniors, you can make a contribution. You can mold them a little bit, not mold their techniques as much, fine tune their techniques, but mold their understanding of the game and create a vision for the game and how to play the game for them. And one of the reasons India's seems to be having ready-made players coming through the ranks into test match cricket. People like Mayank Agarwal, Hanuma Vihari, even as you go along, so many others who are coming into the side now, is because at the A level, they've had very good exposure. So I think it's very good. I think we must find roles for our former players. Anil Kumble has so much to contribute. Give him a certain role. Rahul Dravid a certain role. Saurav Ganguly has a different idea of life. As an administrator, enjoying the power, he will enjoy it too. So I think Indian cricket has much to thank Rahul Dravid for. All I would say is Rahul Dravid is now head of the NCA.
Yeah, but it's not there on social media.
Yeah, but take the administration out of him. Let him focus on producing cricketers. And it's not his strength, and someone else could be as good, if not better. And he's not on social media because he just doesn't like it.
Yeah. So. And a word on MS Dhoni. India will miss the legend.
If India did not miss MS Dhoni, then he wasn't a great cricketer.
Yeah.
So, of course, India will miss MS Dhoni. India will miss him in many, many ways, more than anything else, because I think he showed you how to finish games. He brought a great calmness to situations, and he showed the way for a lot of people. I mean, even before MS Dhoni and Ranchi, there were people from small towns coming through. Indian cricket made a huge shift from being a city-based game to being a suburbs-based game to being a smaller town-based game over the last 25 years. Even before Dhoni, there were people coming in from there, but not before. You ask people who are my age or even older, and they will tell you cricket was played in Bombay, Bangalore, Madras, Hyderabad, Delhi. Now see where the players are coming from. So there were players coming. But when someone from Ranchi came in, became captain, became admired around the world, it told a kid in Hoshiarpur, it told a kid in Shiliguri, it told a kid somewhere in Nanded, it told a kid in an outer suburb of Kochi that you too can do it. And that has been, to my mind, his greatest contribution, that it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what technique you have. Dhoni had a technique all his own, he had a mindset all his own, and you can still come and do it. So I think Dhoni's, like Tendulkar was an example of what you can achieve. Kohli is an example of what you can achieve. In his own way, Dhoni is an example of what you can achieve.
But you think Dhoni will be more remembered as a captain than a player?
If you won a World Cup for your country and finish it in dramatic style, it is inevitable. Look, I think Dhoni was an outstanding white ball captain. I'm not sure he enjoyed the red ball captaincy as much. He would have liked it today with a better bowling attack at his disposal. But as a white ball captain, yes, definitely be remembered as a captain. But I hope he's not only remembered for the 2011 World Cup. It is inevitable that he is. The great actors are remembered for their biggest hits. The greatest politicians are remembered for their biggest social change that they bring about. So he will be remembered for 2011. But I hope he's remembered for much, much more than just that.
Yeah, last question, Harsha. What advice do you want to give to the youngsters who want to play professional sport but confused about whether to choose studies or sports?
More than advising them, I would tell today's cricketers, successful cricketers, please, for heaven's sake, never, ever, ever say कि मैं पढ़ाई में अच्छा नहीं था. Never say. I cannot stand it when people say, like they're wearing a badge of honor, मैं तो पढ़ाई में अच्छा नहीं था. Because you're telling other people it's okay पढ़ाई में अच्छा नहीं होना. Because you made it doesn't mean everybody else will. So I tell everybody that you have 24 hours in a day. Play hard, study hard, don't waste time. And then keep both your options open, because very, very few people make it to the highest level. The people that make it, you look at them and great, you want to be like them, you want to work hard like them. If you don't think like that, you'll never make it. But there are many who don't. And if you don't, then where do you go? So I would, if anyone tells me I only want to play cricket, I don't want to study, I say I wish you well, but you're on a very dangerous path.
Right, play sport, but studies are also very, very
Just as well,
important.
very, very much so. And please, every time you hear a successful man saying, I wasn't very good at studies, please tell him, please never ever say that.
Right, very nicely said, sir. You are an inspiration. Thank you so much for giving us your precious time. Thank you. Thank you so much.